I was already standing when she said it. Fork paused in the air, my name sharpened into a blade. Pack your things, Mom said, smiling for the room. And stop relying on the family. The clink of silverware sounded too loud. The roast steamed. My pulse didn't. I felt the moment snap into place like a trap closing, and I knew before I sat back down that someone had miscalculated. I walked to the guest room without a word. The hallway felt longer than it ever had, like the house was holding its breath. I folded shirts with the care of a surgeon. Socks, charger, passport. I left the door open, let them watch me disappear in pieces. When I came back, they were quieter. Noon meant my eyes. The air tasted metallic. I set my bag down beside my care. Then I spoke. They were staring at me like I'd broken some unspoken rule. Not the rule about gratitude, the rule about silence, about never reminding them who kept the lights warm and the vacation seamless. About never saying the word funded at a family table. Dad cleared his throat. My brother avoided my gaze. My aunt's mouth kept moving, but no sound came out. Mom sipped wine, lips tight, eyes polished as she'd practiced that look. Authority with a varnish of concern. Something was off. It had been off all afternoon. The glances, the pauses when I entered a room. The way Mom's phone stayed face down, buzzing like a secret. I waited. I always waited. I hadn't always been the problem. I'd been the solution, the fixer, the quiet sponsor with a steady hand and no need for applause. When the business loan stalled, I wired the bridge. When Dad's back went out, I paid the specialist. When Mom wanted the holiday lunch done right, I booked the caterer and paid them early. I learned young that love in this house was transactional but subtle. You didn't ask, you anticipated. You didn't announce, you absorbed. The first crack was small, a missed call, then another. Meetings rescheduled with vague excuses, a spreadsheet I didn't recognize opened in my laptop, then vanished. I told myself it was stress. Holidays did that to people. But secrets have a smell, and once you notice it, you can't pretend you don't. I started listening, not eavesdropping, observing. Mom took calls in the pantry. Dad stopped asking before making purchases. My brother mentioned a new plan he couldn't quite explain. A lien item in the family account shifted categories overnight. Money moved without asking permission from the person who supplied it. Confusion softened into hurt. Hurt hardened into something clean. I checked timestamps, access logs, permissions. I didn't confront, I documented. They decided it was temporary, convenient, a resource they could rearrange. They'd told themselves I wouldn't notice, or if it did, I'd swallow it. I always had. I stopped funding quietly, just enough to see who would panic. No one did. That told me everything. Revenge isn't loud when it's done right. It's patient. It treads the board twice before touching a piece. I scheduled calls I didn't attend. Let them wonder. I nodded at plans I knew would collapse without misignature. I watched Mom's confidence grow brittle. Watched her rehearse the speech in the mirror, the one where she put me in my place, the one she delivered at lunch, like a performance she thought she'd mastered. I prepared receipts, emails, bank authorizations with my name in bold, termination clauses highlighted like veins under skin. I looped in accountants who owed me favors, and lawyers who didn't need explanations. I chose the moment carefully, public enough to sting, controlled enough to be undeniable. Then I waited for her to tell me to leave. Back at the table, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't smile. I am leaving, I said. And since we're clarifying dependencies, let's finish the list. Mom tilted her head confused. The room leaned toward me without realizing it. Effective today, I continued. The mortgage assistance ends. The business credit line is closed. The vacation trust is dissolved. The health cover guidons revert to baseline. Silence fell like a held breath finally released. Dad's face drained. My brother's fork slipped from his hand. Someone laughed once, too sharp, and stopped. Mom's eyes flicked, calculating. You can't. I already did. I slid my phone across the table. Screenshots, dates, confirmations. I let them read. She reached for the phone, then stopped. Her face went blank. Not angry, not sad, empty. The look of someone who's realized the floor was never there. You told me to stop relying on the family, I said softly. I listened. The unraveling was quiet. No shouting, no pleading, just the slow collapse of assumptions. Dad tried to speak. I shook my head once. My brother stared at his hands like they might confess something. Mom finally found her voice. You're being dramatic. I stood, shouldered my bag. This is me being precise. I walked out before anyone could follow. The door closed with a sound that felt like punctuation. Outside, the air was cold and clean. I didn't rush. I never rush when the game is finished. That night, my phone filled with messages I didn't answer. Apologies wrapped in logistics. Love spelled with numbers. I archived them all. In the weeks that followed, the house learned new rules. Bills arrived. Calls went unanswered by institutions that no longer recognized their authority. The business faltered. The vacations vanished. The family learned what silence costs when it's been subsidized for too long. They stopped calling eventually. I didn't lose a family. Ished a liability. What changed wasn't my bank balance. It was my posture, my breath, the way rooms felt when you entered them alone and unafraid. Power doesn't announce itself. It waits, it watches. And when it moves, it does so once. They told me to leave, so it did, taking everything that was mine with me.